Hi, I'm Tim Scales, the Director of the Center for Entrepreneurship and the Center for Economic Education here at Indiana University East.
It's my pleasure to introduce you to another episode of In Your Business.
We talk to local entrepreneurs, we learn about their business, we learn about why they started their business, how they started their business, some of the opportunities their businesses has provided them and their community, as well as some of the hurdles they've gone through, some of the challenges. Welcome to another episode of In Your Business. Today we're going to do things just a little bit different. In the past several years, you've watched the show and you've watched us talk to entrepreneurs. We get to know about their business, why they got in the business, how they got in the business and such. Today we're going to turn it a little bit and we're going to talk to bankers. What we're going to do is we're going to talk to the bankers, get to know the bankers, and let them share with us a little bit about what they can do for businesses. Over the last several years, we've had about 250 businesses come to the show, and now we just thought it'd be a real treat as we celebrate 10 years of In Your Business to just talk about, the needs of the businesses and what they can do. When we look at business, it's amazing because everything comes back to business. Maybe it's a physician who has an office, that's a business. Maybe it's an airline, they have a business. Maybe it's an education like Indiana University East, that's a business. But banking's also a business. And so when we put it all together, we really need banks, we also need business, and we need a community that supports it all. And that's what's really good about In Your Business is we look at everything. So what I want to do now is let's meet the bankers that are with us. So Ben, can we start with you?
Sure. My name is Ben Brock. I am the Vice President of Commercial Lending for West End Bank. I have been with the bank for a little over 5 years, and my primary focus at the bank is working with our small business customers.
Very good. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Tracy?
Hi, I'm Tracy Saunders. I'm the branch manager and an officer of First Merchants Bank. I have been with the bank for about 2.5 years. So born and raised in Richmond, so love the community, very passionate about it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Melissa?
Melissa Matney. I'm with U.S. Bank. I'm the current market president. My focus is on commercial banking and working with businesses. I've been with the bank for about 12.5 years.
Very good. Thank you. And Mark?
Mark Sokup with the Wayne Bank and Trust Company. I'm the president and CEO. Been with the bank 3 years, been in banking about 38 years, and I'm overall responsible for all the operations of the bank, financial results, customer service, operations, the whole deal.
Great. Being a former banker myself, I spent 18 years in banking, so I kind of know what you guys do, but this is a good day to share with the community and let them know what all of us do. And here at the university, I get to work with a lot of small businesses, not just with the show, but people that come to the Center for Entrepreneurship, and they need resources. And the neat thing about Richmond and Wayne County, Indiana, is the way we all work together. Oftentimes people say, well, we need to be doing this or doing that, and I think we do it. We do it every day. And that's why it's important to bring you all on the show, is I think we all have a great friendship. I don't hesitate to call any one of you, and I hope you don't hesitate to call myself. When I talk with businesses, I have that same rapport. I want the businesses to be able to pick up the phone and call any of us as a friend, as a person that can help them. And that's what this is all about. So as we move forward, I want to learn a little bit about your banks. I want to talk about your locations, maybe where your main office is, where your branches are, the number of employees you have. So just kind of give us a little bit of background about your banks. And I want to keep it in the same flow if we could. So Ben, we'll just start right off with you.
West End Bank is a community-based bank. We have 4 branches in Wayne and Union County. We also have 9 branches in the school system, in the elementary school and the high school. We have approximately 80 employees. That kind of fluctuates from time to time, but it's pretty consistently in that 80 number. And we consider our market area the Wayne and Union County area, and slightly just outside that.
Okay. And Tracy?
Well, First Merchants Bank is a community bank, but we do have 119 branches throughout Indiana, a few in Illinois and a couple in Ohio as well. There is over 1,000 employees with First Merchants Bank, and our main office is in Muncie.
Okay, very good. Melissa?
U.S. Bank is the 5th largest financial institution in the U.S., but locally we have 9 branches in Wayne County. We have 1 branch outside of Wayne County, so 10 serving the area, 1 in Henry County, with approximately 55 employees. Of course, nationally we have about 67,000 employees and 3,000 branches.
Wow, okay. Mark?
We're at the other end of the spectrum. We're headquartered here in Wayne County. We have 3 offices. We've been actually owned by the same family for 133 years, and I consider us a small business. Many of the things that keep entrepreneurs awake at night keep us awake at night. We're battling with the same types of issues, healthcare and what have you. About 42 employees, and pleased to be in Wayne County.
Great. Well, it's exciting for me to have this conversation with you because we do have all sizes of banks here. We have the smallest banks to the largest banks, and I think that's important for people to know is the services that all of you offer are somewhat similar but maybe different. And so, one bank may not be right for one business, but it might be right for the other. And that's what we need to find out because so often people get discouraged. If something's not the right fit, they give up. And that's not what we want them to do. We want people to work with us until we get it right. And that's what we want to do. So let's go ahead and talk about your mission and the vision of your banks and what it is that you really want to do and how you want to serve.
Our primary mission is to be a customer-focused, community-based bank here in Wayne and Union County. And our mission is to do that through our customer service, our products and services that we offer, and giving back to the community with our resources and our time and the talents of our staff.
Great. Well, thank you for all of that. Tracy.
Our mission and vision is the strength of big, the service of small. We are the second largest bank in Indiana, but that is made up of several community banks that we've acquired over the years. So our focus still stays in each community. The people that are running those banks are usually from those communities. So all of our banks, even though we're a large one in Indiana, is really based on making sure that each one of our communities is serviced.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Melissa?
We'll probably all answer this very similarly, but of course, servicing our customers is, of course, our primary focus. But being a large institution, also our employees are very important. That's an important focus of what we try to do every day in serving the community, giving back to the community. All of those things are very important. We have kind of a unique model at U.S. Bank with community banking. Even though we are a large institution, we still have a board of directors that meets 6 times a year that is very involved. And I think that's a very important part to still have that community focus and to service those customers, to make that a priority.
Great. Well, thank you. And Mark?
Yeah, our mission statement is to promote community prosperity by delivering high-quality financial services to our businesses, our citizens of the community, as well as our community.
Great. Well, I've been a part of this community my entire life, and I've been a part of business and banking all my career. And I feel like as I was listening to you speak about what it is your banks are here to do, you're doing a great job. Our community has gone through change. And I know as you look at the history, we were much into manufacturing, we've gone into service, now we're into technology. And it's interesting to watch how the banks have changed to accommodate that. And I think every one of you work very well with small businesses. And so I'm happy to be here with you and to learn more about what it is. Talk to us now a little bit about what it is that your bank can do for small business.
Our bank offers a variety of services, from loans to deposit services, checking accounts, savings accounts, and that sort of thing. Really the big thing that we try to offer is that personal connection with a small business owner. The understanding that we truly do understand their business and want to work with them, not just from a customer to customer, but more as a relationship, for down the road.
Okay, great. Thank you.
At First Merchants, we are small business approved lender. We do the 504 loans, which are loans that require less down for small business owners, and a portion of those loans are fixed rates for long term, which is really great for small business owners. We also have a variety of services. We have cash management that can help them with direct deposits for employees that they have. We have our merchant services, which can take care of any sort of electronic payments. We also have remote capture, where they can capture written check payments at their location. So we have our great business online banking and mobile banking as well for people, and a lot of accounts that differentiate to the size of the business and the type of business, so that we try to get them into accounts that are not going to eat them up with fees. A lot of the small business accounts, we can make it so that they're fee free to help them get on their feet and get moving.
Great, thank you. Melissa?
Of course, we focus on both small business products. We have loans and lines of credit that are structured for small businesses, and then we also have products that are structured for medium and large size businesses as well. Same thing, in terms of cash management, which is, processing of your checks each day. If you don't want to go to the bank, to be able to do that electronically, online banking, merchant services. I would say, once again, we have a lot of the same products. But probably the thing that stands out, we are an SBA preferred lender. Once it is approved by U.S. Bank, it does not have to go to the SBA. We can approve it internally, and then it is accepted by the SBA. So that does speed up the process somewhat for the.
Great. Melissa, prior to the show, I did say something about jargon and said anytime we use it, I'm going to probably stop us because I want to make sure that anybody watching always understands what we're talking about. And I know all of us at the table, we know what SBA stands for and
Sure.
such. So can you kind of elaborate a bit?
Sure. I know Tracy mentioned it as well. That is the Small Business Administration, which is a government entity that basically provides a guarantee for those loans.
Great. And sometimes I'll miss the jargon here the second time, but if I do catch it, I would like to,
Right.
make sure. So, Mark?
Sure. Loans and deposits is basically what we have to offer. We also can bring SBA guaranteed loans for companies that may need some credit enhancement. Maybe there's a weakness out there that prohibit it from being a conventional loan, as well as the SBA 504 that Tracy mentioned. It's a great program for capital asset purchases, building and equipment. And we strive to establish a relationship with small business where we become a trusted advisor. Just like their attorney or their accountant, we want to bring that level of expertise on whatever it is, forecasting, budgeting, and providing then loans that meet their needs going forward.
Great. Mark, and you bring up an interesting point, and I've thought about it a lot. We have to surround ourselves with business, and we have to surround ourselves with insurance and banking and real estate and all of those specializations. So we can't take bankers for granted. We have to find somebody that we work well with, that we enjoy working with, that can take care of our needs. And we also have to understand how to shop. Oftentimes, if we're going to buy a new suit, we may shop 3 or 4 places before we find the right place. And same way with banking. I think we have to learn how to shop, and we need to get to know the bankers, which we're doing today. And it becomes difficult because the personalities are all very caring and wonderful, and you guys are really wanting to take care of business. And I appreciate that. So as we move forward, my next question will be startup businesses. Here at the university, I teach the new venture creation, and I get to work with a lot of students who have an idea, and they don't have a lot of capital. Then coming to the center, I have people from the community coming in and saying, okay, I've got this great idea, I've been thinking about it. Sometimes maybe they have some capital because maybe they've cashed in some of their retirement funds and such. But when it really gets down to it, it's new startup business. That's a little bit of a different animal than trying to buy a company or trying to have something that's been around 20 years. So how is it that your bank works with a new startup business?
We work in multiple ways. I would say the most effective way we've had so far is we've worked with several customers in connection with the Small Business Administration. But primarily, we've had a lot of success at staying connected with some of the local resources, like your department here, Scott Underwood with the Indiana Small Business Development Center, and some other local organizations that are able to work with people who want to start a business but don't have a lot of money to invest in the research. They offer free services and can help with that planning and development. We stay in touch with those so that when we have somebody come in with questions and need some guidance, we can help point them in the right direction and follow up with them and kind of help coach them along that process.
Great, thank you.
A lot like with Ben, we want to develop a relationship with them. We want to advise them. We want to get them set up with the Small Business Development Center. That is a phenomenal resource for people who are wanting to start a business up.
Yes.
It will help them to do solid business plans, ones that when they come to the table to a bank or a lender looking for it, they have a solid plan of what it's more research in sweat equity on their part than maybe money up front. So for those small businesses, we really do like to guide them in the direction of the resources and to look at grants and for the center city and things like that, so they can find a way and we can help them to find a way. So when they do get a little bit bigger, maybe we can help them out a little bit more.
Sure. Thank you. Melissa?
I think similarly to how they both have answered, sitting down with those individuals who maybe have an idea or they've put together something and working with them. Also looking at ways that we might be able to leverage existing resources. Maybe it's through a home equity line of credit or something like that. Typically people will use credit cards to get things started. We'll see that people have done that, but mainly just providing that advice and guidance, not taking the place of an attorney or an accountant, but just providing that information and direction to develop that small business plan.
Great, thank you. Mark?
And we too work with startups. Typically SBA comes into play. We may ask if there's parents or other people that are willing to bring some capital or liquidity to the deal. Startups do create an interesting dilemma, and typically venture capitalists are the ones that put money into a startup. Typically not a bank.
Right.
Because there's a high risk. If it works, everybody gets wealthy. If it doesn't work, the bank has a problem. We've done startups, we'll continue to do startups, but they've also got to be done at the right time for the right reasons.
Sure. And I think that's an interesting point, Mark, because we all want individuals to be successful.
Bet.
And that is the most important thing, is that they're successful. If the timing is not right, if it's not the right plan and it's too high a risk, it's too high a risk for your business, but it's also too high a risk possibly for theirs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And all too often, I've had individuals that came to me and said, Tim, I'm quitting my job. I'm going into this. I'm going to make this happen. And we look at it, and fortunately, they'll listen long enough to realize they don't need to quit their job. If they're truly passionate about it, they need to start small, and they need to grow it. And they'll be able to look at a financial statement and know when it's time to quit the job and go into it full time. But let's find out if it's just a passionate hobby, interest, or if it's a real business. Right. And when it's time, then it'll be right. And I'm going to help you guys, because at the same time, one thing I try to get people to understand is patience. You can't come into the bank today and expect to be in business tomorrow. It just doesn't happen that fast. And you guys have a wealth of information. A lot of times when I'm working with somebody on a business plan, I do send them to Scott Underwood, and he's got the best program and the software he uses and what he can teach them about the demographics and the market and what their business can do. But it's a partnership. I also send them to the banks, and I tell them to talk to the bankers, because whatever the business is that I might be interested in or they might be interested in, you guys have a wealth of information. If I'm going to open a new fruit market, you guys can pull up the information and tell how fruit markets have done across the country. And if I'm saying I'm going to have 6 employees and the average is more like 15, you'll tell me that. At the same time, if I'm saying my fruit market's going to bring in $2 million in sales and the average is only bringing in $250,000 a year, there's a problem. So I think they should come to you, they should talk about it before they all get excited about opening the next day. So I think it's a thing where you've got to be patient, you've got to plan, and you've got to pay attention. The maddest I had was one individual who did get upset with me because he wanted to start a construction company. He felt that he should come to my office, I should help him find $100,000, $60,000 of that was to buy a new truck. Well, no. That's just not the way it works.
But it's a nice truck.
Are we trying to buy a truck, or are we trying to start a business? And I believe that we can go out and do business without that expensive truck, okay? And so sometimes the hard conversations is what makes you a success. That hard conversation is when you have to tell somebody, no, this is not going to work, and this is why. They're upset. They want somebody to say yes. But 5 years, 10 years down the road, when they're very successful, they come back and say, thank you. And that's the hardest part about all of our jobs at this table today, is being able to say no and then be able to come back and work with them. So I applaud each of you for being able to do that. Not that I always want you to say no, but I want you to be able to make them set up for success, okay? Just saying the right things to them. That's going to lead me to my next question, though, and that's going to be, what steps would you suggest an entrepreneur take to acquire a bank loan?
You kind of hit the nail on the head already, and that's planning. The most successful customers I've had are the ones that have taken the time to really put a plan in place, put their team in place. And when I say team, that's attorney, accountant, banker, and a lot of times that means essentially interviewing multiple people for those jobs. Somebody may come into my office with a great business plan for a business, or to modify their existing business. And it may be evident that I don't understand their business, or I've never worked with it before, but maybe Tracy or Melissa has.
Sure.
So there might be a better fit as they go through that interview process, looking for the right banker. Same thing with an accountant or an attorney or any other support staff that somebody needs. And a great place to start, like we've said, is somebody like a Scott Underwood at the Indiana Small Business Development Center, or some of the other local agencies.
Sure. Thank you. Tracy?
Ben hit a lot of it on that one. It comes down to a lot of research. It also, like Mark said earlier, finding those investors, whether they're family or co-partners that have a little bit of money to put into it to start out small. It's to research it, to research that type of business. To find out for yourself, is that a viable business? Has it been something in the community or even in the region that has hit off? If so, what are they making? How many employees do they have? So it's a lot of research and a lot of just putting yourself into it first before just assuming it's like a consumer loan that you just walk in there and say, okay, I want to take money out of my car today, or I want to go buy this vehicle, and in a couple hours we'll have a check for you. It's a lot more in depth than that.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you. Melissa?
That's a hard one, because I'd have to echo what they're saying, what has been stated. I guess the only thing that I would add is, interviewing businesses that are similar to the business maybe that they want to start up, which, maybe that's doing research online, maybe that's doing research here within the community, meeting and talking with other people. As you mentioned, the bank can be a great resource, and if they're wanting to start a business, more than likely we have maybe something in our network or any of our networks. The other banks may have experience with it, maybe not in the Wayne County area, but maybe even outside of the area where they could get that research for them.
Great. And I mean, you're absolutely correct, and it's difficult sometimes because, again, they don't always want to hear that answer.
Right.
But it's important that they learn from it.
Right.
So, Mark?
So your question, is it pertaining to startup business or any
It could be any
entrepreneur?
business. It truly, someone want to
Yeah.
buy a business versus startup.
Right, because in a startup, I want to see some evidence that your idea works.
Sure.
A lot of people want to get in the restaurant business. Well, show me that you've worked in a restaurant. Show me that you've managed a restaurant, that you understand the hours and the dedication to detail that it takes. Give me evidence that it works. If it's an existing business, show me some track record. Bankers never like surprises. Mm-hmm. Don't show up at my door on a Friday morning and say, I need $500,000 by Monday to make this deal go. Start talking to us a year in advance. Let us know what your plans are. Where are you trying to take your company? So that we build on those goals and we're prepared to respond to answers when we're asked to do something.
And Mark, I feel like that's a relationship.
Sure it is.
And it's building a relationship even before you open the account, and getting to know the person, getting to know what their tolerance is going to be, how they're going to respond to things. The economy affects our business, and knowing what our tolerance is to that shock is very important as well. So there's another question I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask each of you, and I know I'm going to get very similar answers on it, and it's one that I didn't prepare you for, and that is, it's all about the person, okay? If I'm an entrepreneur and I'm coming in and I want to open a business, it really does get personal, and I don't think people always understand that. What I want to ask you is, how does your bank look at that entrepreneur? Do you look at their credit score?
We do. I think everybody does. It's something that has to be taken into account, but there's also extenuating circumstances around everything on a credit report. Small business lending happens to be one of those situations where you can sit down and talk to somebody and get that story. Every once in a while, there are exceptions to, to those rules that you can work with. It's like you said, it's all about sitting down and getting to know that person, hearing the story, and then doing some research on it as well.
Okay. Do you ask them to bring in a resume or?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
As Mark said, depending on the situation, if it's a startup or they're wanting to open a new line in their business, you do need to know what their history is. Are they experienced enough in that area?
Sure. Okay. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. We do look at their credit score. And the same with what Ben said. There are different programs and there's different types. And with the small businesses, sometimes you can, business plan, the type of business and that sort of thing can overcome maybe any hiccups they've had in their credit over the years. But there's a lot more to it than just your credit score. I mean,
Absolutely.
they could have a fantastic credit score, but the idea and the financing and stuff maybe not work at this point. So it's not the only factor. It's just a very small part of it.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Melissa?
Yes, we do. That's one of the places that we do start. But for us, the credit score is a factor, but it's not the primary factor. The primary driver for us, for a small business, is really the performance. How have they performed historically? If it's maybe a business that's an existing business that's wanting to expand and borrow, maybe they're adding a new product line. It's more about the projections and the pro forma, which means providing information to us that shows what you project that business is going to do in the coming years. So credit score is certainly important. If there have been issues, it doesn't mean that it's an absolute no in all cases. In some cases it can for some of our very small business products. But we do want to hear the story, as Ben mentioned. There are different reasons why someone may have had an issue with their credit score.
Sure. All right.
Yes, credit score is important, but it is only a piece of the decision process. And I get the benefit of thinking about the answer a little bit too. And I would also say the lower the credit score, the more important it becomes. Because a person's credit score is an indication of how they're going to handle their money in a business. A low score doesn't kick it out, but we're going to want to understand why it's low. And yes, we want to see resumes, and we really want to understand why is this going to work? What do you know that other people don't know? And that's sometimes the most difficult part of a startup. If somebody starts talking about software, I don't know anything about software. So, we'll try and validate through other sources.
Sure, and it makes sense. I mean, really, a person might get upset with you, if they have a poor credit score or if their resume's not together and they don't understand. They're trying to do a business and they think a business is separate from the individual, and it's really not. And there's a lot of things that go into it, as you said, Tracy. And so we just have to be patient, we have to be tolerant, and realize we're all in it together, we're working together, and we're working for the success of that individual. That's the person we're trying to help. And if they work with us, I think we can get them further than if they shut us down. And so, again, I appreciate everything we're doing. This is going to be the opportunity for you to tell me what makes your bank different than the other banks. Now, Mark, you said you've had the opportunity to think about it while you're talking.
That's
So
fair.
purposely, I'm going to switch it around on you. So, Mark, why don't you start with this question?
I'd be glad to, and some of our competitive advantages are very important. Number one, we're locally owned and managed. Decisions are made here in Wayne County, and people have access to decision makers. I spend a lot of time with entrepreneurs in their office. Okay, we'll bring chief lending officers. We can bring the decision makers to you.
Okay.
And I think that gives us a heads up as far as getting a rapid response. And sometimes a quick no is the appropriate answer. And if that is, we're going to deliver that. If there's a way to get the deal done, we'll bring the decision makers, let them hear the story firsthand.
Great. Melissa?
Well, I think for us, it relates to the relationship. We've talked a little bit about that. We've also talked about having a consultative type relationship with our customers. So those two key things are very important to us. In addition to that, we do have local decision makers. We can bring those decision makers local, but our size is also, I would say, an asset, because while we have community banking and we have local decision makers and the ability to do that, we also have the size of a large bank to be able to offer to our customers all of the things that they need to be successful.
Okay, great.
Well, first and foremost is the people. I think the people within First Merchants Bank, we care. We want to see each one of our communities grow and prosper. We are excited about the new things that come to the area, whether they're coming from the outside to build us or whether we're building from the inside up. And it's after the loan gets approved and the accounts are set up. We're still there to answer questions and to help anyone out. Our partners, our merchant services and cash managements, they can be there in a day if there's a trouble and they need them. So I really think it's our people. It's our people that make a difference.
Great, thank you. And Ben?
I would echo a combination of Tracy and Mark's comments. For us, it's our board, our management, our employees. We have all been raised and lived in Richmond and Wayne County. We don't want to just see the bank and the small businesses that we work with be successful because they bank with us. It's because they contribute to our local economy that we all are a part of and want to see grow and be successful. And we do that through our people. Our people are very committed to our customers, not just our small business customers, but our regular deposit base. And I would say that's what makes us special. We also have all of our local decision making is made down on South 7th Street. It doesn't go anyplace else. Everything is within. I'm 20 feet from the president's office. If I need an answer, I'll walk upstairs and I'll get it.
Very good. Thank you. You're even closer.
Yeah.
I am.
All right. So again, I'm going to ask you guys, because we need to help individuals that are looking at small business, whether they're wanting to acquire a business or start a business, whatever it might be. And that is, give them some idea of a timeline. So if today I decide, hey, I'm going to go to the bank and get a loan, is that the way it's going to work? Do I just walk into the bank and boom, I'm going to set up an application and get a loan? Do I need to set an appointment? What's my expectations for that appointment? Should I be calling you a week out? What is the timeline from the time I should be contacting the bank, that I should be waiting and expecting some kind of result? So can you give me an expectation of what that looks like?
We like to work by appointment. So if you need 2 hours, we can set aside 2 hours for you. And usually a day or two out, we can manage to see someone. The timeline, again, existing business or a startup.
Mm-hmm.
Existing business, bring 3 years financial information, a personal statement, personal tax returns, and we can turn an answer generally within 5 to 7 days. On a startup, it's going to take a little bit longer because there's just more things to consider, more things to look at. That might be closer to 2 weeks.
So within 30 days is not out of the question whatsoever.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Melissa.
Well, it does depend upon the type of loan. We have some loans that we can get back with you within 24, 48 hours if it's a very small loan for an existing business. If it's in excess of $1 million, it's probably going to take a couple of weeks. If it's somewhere in between, you're probably looking at 5 to 7 business days, but it does vary based on the loan. We prefer to work by appointment as well, but if it's some very small branch products that they can do for, say, a small line of credit, they can just walk into any of our branches and talk to them, or they can even call our 1-800 number. So it does vary. It really is based on size. I would say that if it's anything more than $100,000, they probably need to make an appointment.
Okay. Tracy?
Well, so I'm going to go about this a little differently.
Okay.
I'd say when the person is ready. You know, they've got this idea and they're thinking, okay, I can do this. Call, make an appointment with us then. Come in and sit down and talk to us. Let us give you some advice and guide you in the right direction where to go. Then, after you get your research and your personal financials and all that kind of stuff, then give us a call back and we'll sit down. And it's the same turnaround time when you get to that point. But I would say before, you know, the hopes get really, really high and you have these aspirations that maybe cannot be met, come in and talk to whoever your local banker is, whoever it is that you're working with. Talk to them and be honest with them, because hopefully I know that we are as honest with them, because it's a risk for them as well for us.
Sure. Okay. Ben?
I would agree. It varies greatly. For that existing customer whose financials I'm familiar with, you know, even sometimes on a sizable loan, I can give them an answer almost immediately because I'm familiar with them. If it's a new customer, a new business to the bank or a startup, it may take a period of time and several meetings to make sure that, you know, we have all the information that we need and we've had all the questions answered that we need answered.
Okay. Fair enough. So I think good planning. I mean, it comes down to that. And even when I'm working with individuals and we start working in the business plan, you know, it's difficult. You don't open a business the next day. You just don't. And I'm not going to say that every business has to have a written business plan, but I've yet to meet a successful business, whether it be an entrepreneur, a business owner, or a manager, who does not have a plan. They may not have it written, but any question that I ask of something that's going to be on the business plan comes out of their head. You know, if I look at them and say, okay, what's your pricing strategy? They'll be able to tell me. If they're successful, they know this stuff. And it's quite interesting because that's kind of the interview you're going to give them. When you sit down with them, you're going to be asking those hard questions that they've had to think through. And if they have not done it, their chances of getting success at your institution is not great, but their chances of being successful in the industry is not great either. So it's all about preparing and planning and being ready. And that's what they have to do if they're going to work with you. Now, what kind of advice would you give to small business owners and entrepreneurs?
I would really suggest that the planning process be put first and foremost when they start thinking about opening a business or going to get a business loan if you own an existing business. You know, that planning process, you know, and how you're going to check your results versus your plan and how regularly you do that. Some of the most successful businesses that I work with, that's what sets them apart from some of the others that tend to struggle a little bit, is the amount of planning that they put into things.
Okay, great. Tracy?
Same thing. It's a lot with the planning. It's not being afraid to reach out there to the resources that we have in town, like the Small Business Development Center. They are a great resource. They can really help people put together good plans and ask the questions that maybe as a small business owner you didn't think about asking, ones that the bank would ask once you get in front of them to talk to them about loans. So it's that planning and resources and reaching out to people.
Okay. Melissa?
My advice would be that you have to constantly look at reinventing yourself. You constantly have to look at your business and ask, what can I do differently? What's changing in the market? What do I need to do? And it really goes back to what Ben and Tracy have said about the research. But, you know, not keeping the status quo with your business. What are your customers looking for? And aiming to try to meet those needs.
Okay. Mark?
I agree with planning. I agree with reinventing yourself, but also to keep a close tab on capital and liquidity. You could have the best mousetrap ever created, but if you don't have enough cash to get it to the point where it's selling and you're going up that success curve, it doesn't matter. Having adequate cash on hand, and things always take longer than you think they're going to.
Sure.
And I would say also buy-in from the family. Is the family ready to make a commitment to becoming self-employed? You know, or are they going to continue their spending habits? It requires sacrifice from everybody.
Okay. And what kind of reserves are you thinking, Mark?
Well, for any business, it's going to be different. You know, initially, a small business typically needs cash to fund losses because their expenses are exceeding their revenues. then they're going to need cash to fund their receivables and their inventory. So, if it's a service business, probably less cash needed. So if you're an attorney or an accountant going into business for yourself, you're not going to have inventory. You're going to
Right.
build some receivables. If you're going into heavy equipment, metal bending, now you've got big equipment needs, you've got inventory needs, and you've got receivable needs. So it's going to vary with the type of company, the scale that they're after, and the industry that they're in.
Okay. Okay. Well, there's a lot that goes into it, and I don't think people realize that. I think a lot of times we look at business owners and we think, wow, that's who we want to be, but we don't realize the other side.
Go talk to one that doesn't sleep at night.
Yeah, and that happens. I mean,
Right.
I've watched some very, very good ideas, good companies go out. And the reason is because they didn't understand receivables. They didn't understand that they had to pay for something up front, and then to purchase people buying it from them, they needed 60, 90 days. And so that working capital that you spoke of, I mean, I asked the question of how much, because it could be anywhere from 6 months to a year, in my opinion, as far as what it's going to take to
Very
survive.
easily.
And in a down economy, I mean, we can take a fluctuation in a down economy that only lasts 60 days that can run a business for the next 2 years. And I mean, it takes a lot, to get things back. And so it's not always easy, it's not always fun. And I know when I was in banking that a lot of times, the average small business could only make a profit maybe 2 out of 5 years. And people don't want to hear that. But we didn't know which of the 2 of the 5. And so we had to make sure that we prepared for all 5, the good and the bad. And so that happens. Ben, as you're thinking about some of the businesses you've worked with, and I don't want you to name any of the businesses, but just share some things with us. Things, maybe it's something that was really great that happened, or maybe it was something that wasn't so great.
Obviously, since we focus on our local community in Wayne and Union County, one of the most rewarding things, to me is being able to work with that small business and see it develop, add jobs, and add to our local economy. It's a very rewarding experience, not just for the business owner, but for me as their banker, too. That because I had a small piece in that, in helping provide that service.
Now, what does that mean to you, Ben? You're their banker. When you say you're their banker, what does that mean to you?
I'll be honest. In many cases, it means I'm their friend. When I look at my Facebook or on my iPhone and it tries to tell me who the first 5 people are I talk to, aside from my wife, the other 4 are customers.
Okay.
It's that kind of relationship building, to me that makes it so rewarding. Because by the time we get to that point, that's usually somebody I've talked with not only during business hours, but I've probably had a conversation at 10 o'clock at night with them too.
Sure. And I think that's important. That truly makes you their banker.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy.
Yeah, it has been seeing some of the smaller businesses that we've helped develop, grow, add locations, go in with our business solutions and helping them with, their point of sale systems, so they can do their inventories and their timesheets and have everything all in one. It's getting those phone calls at 6, 7 o'clock at night when they're worried about something or when they're excited about something, that you're one of those top people on their list that they call. That building that kind of a relationship with someone, that is very rewarding. It's rewarding when they're successful. It's being there to be their backbone when they're having a little bit of a downtime, which all small businesses have, and reassuring them and guiding them in the right direction. So it's building that relationship with them.
So for you to be their banker, what does it mean to you?
It means to be their partner. It means that when they do have something great happening, they call me, and when they have something scary happening, they call me. It's being available to them and knowing that I'm their trusted advisor. I'm there, and they call me about lots of things, not just banking things, but lots of things. They'll touch base, and it's like Ben said, when you look on your Facebook, you have clients on there. When you look on your cell phone and who you've talked to that day, it's clients, and it means a lot when you know that you have that kind of relationship with them.
Sure. Great. Thank you. Melissa?
Well, probably as I think of one of the experiences that I've had over the years is working with a business that was very small and working with them and working through growth and watching them grow, turning into a multi-million-dollar company, and also working through some of the hardships that they had as they went through that growing process. But going through it with them step by step and having that relationship with them and being able to be there for that process. But the same things that Ben and Tracy mentioned, as far as you do become friends with them, because you do spend each and every week, day, talking with these people. So you become invested in their businesses.
So I guess I don't even have to ask you what it means to be their banker.
Yeah.
You've already answered that.
Yeah.
All right. Mark?
Similar story, dealing with somebody that had an idea that started in their basement, moved to the garage, and then finally moved into a commercial facility with employees. That's very gratifying to see them grow. The other thing I would say is, the last 8 years have been very difficult for a lot of small businesses. And there are some that we've worked with to help them through the difficult times by restructuring and doing different things on their financing to help them live to fight another day. And in most cases, those companies have come out of the other side. If they're still here, they're stronger than they've ever been and probably smarter than they've ever been. Coming back again to liquidity and capital being so important to get you through the slow times.
Sure. I'm gonna come back and talk to you a little bit because as we read about history of business, and we can look back into the early 1900s, and we can look at some really successful business individuals who were not always successful. Sometimes, they had challenges. I mean, some of them, they tried 6 or 7 times before they truly became successful. I think the big difference today is we still have some business people who go through 6, 7 times before they truly become successful, but it doesn't have to be that way. I think we have things in place today that are different than they were in the early days of, say, the 1900s, that can help people not make the mistakes that maybe were made back then. But one of the big things that have changed is the technology. And I know even when I got into the banking, we still did things basically by paper. And we watched that change. And one of the biggest changes I'll never forget was when they started saying we're going to use the computerization for the credit scores, that people are going to enter their own information, and this number was going to come up, and that was going to tell us a lot. And I thought that's going to be the end of banking. I mean, when we take that personalization out of it, that's the end of banking. And it's just the opposite. I think it basically speeds us up. It gives us the information we need today. We can look at, what's going on, where it's at, and then we can respond to it much quicker. I mean, I can apply for a loan at midnight just using the technology that we have today. I may not always like what I hear when it's electronic, but I look at how much it has changed. So let's talk a little bit. Ben, how long have you been in banking?
Since 1998.
Talk to me a little bit about the changes that you've seen from the day you started to today.
I would echo a lot of that. When I first started, some of the companies I worked for were very credit score driven. And it was simply a yes or no based on the credit score. And as I've grown into my current position, the last 5 years, it's been the exact opposite. It's been more going back to getting to know people. For me personally, that has been the biggest change I've had.
Okay, Tracy, when did you get into banking?
2013.
So you're new.
Yes.
So maybe we haven't seen as many changes with you.
No.
But we've seen some.
Yeah, absolutely. There's growing in positive and in negative and things every day. I think we all can attest that things change for us every day. We have boards, we have, people we're held accountable to, but all in all, it's stayed pretty steady.
Okay. Melissa.
Well, I entered banking in 2004, and I've seen a lot of changes. Of course, we all hear about the regulatory changes, that's a big thing. But probably the largest is the technology. Being able to deposit things electronically. We have an app that you can deposit your personal checks, You don't even have to come to the bank. So that's probably the biggest change. In terms of the bank itself and the way that we do business as far as lending, that has not changed that much. We really look, as Mark has alluded to, liquidity is of course a big thing. We really rely heavily on the cash flow of an existing business and looking to have a model so that, if that company, we want to ensure that they make money. So that's the model that we try to, they're obviously in business not just for the sake of being in business, but obviously to provide a living. So that's kind of the thing that we focus on, is that cash flow.
Okay, great.
I feel like the old guy. I started in 1978, and the changes have been dramatic on all fronts. We've gone from highly regulated to unregulated, now overregulated. Technology-wise, 20 years ago I had a secretary. Now I have a PC and a keyboard. Melissa talked about branch traffic. I ran a branch in the inner city of Cleveland early in my career, and on Friday nights we'd close the doors at 6 and we'd be there till 10 trying to balance. That's with a dozen tellers running all day. Today, we close at 6, and at 5 after 6 they're walking out the door. So technology has made people so much more efficient and effective, and also the lobby traffic is down because of technology. But those would be the big ones for me.
Sure. I think even the services, though, for the small banks, have changed. Big bank, small bank, they're all working collectively together. And I know that, a lot of times that's what it takes in order to stay, like it is. When I first started the bank, I used to drive to the other banks in the town and exchange checks. Okay, because they used to go by the routing numbers, and this bank would have so many checks, and this bank would have so many checks, and that morning we just did an exchange, and yet now we don't even use checks. I haven't had a check that I've written out in so many years. It's all done electronically, and that's so much more efficient. And you're right, the numbers have changed. You don't have the big lines at the banks that we once had, but we do have the technology that's made all of the difference in the world. So at the end of the day, what is the greatest thing about working with a small business for you, Ben?
That relationship and just the personal rewards you get out of helping somebody in your community. For me, that's what it is. That's the most rewarding thing I get from my job, is getting to know that business and that business owner, and helping them get from point A to point B.
Okay. Tracy?
It's the excitement. You have so much excitement with business owners. Highs and lows, but especially when it's first starting out and they're getting going, and you almost get their adrenaline fill. It's like you're living and riding the ride with them, and that is really my most, becoming that partner with someone else and helping them to see their aspirations through. That's really rewarding.
Okay. I was going to mess with you, Melissa, and go to Mark first, but I'll come back to you. So what is it?
Relationship. Definitely the relationship. Just establishing that relationship with the customer.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mark?
Yeah, relationship and seeing how things are made. Everything in this room is
Yep.
made somewhere, and it just never ceases to amaze me how somebody can look at a little tiny part and figure out how to make it better, faster, cheaper, and make money at it. Entrepreneurialism is just such a powerful thing.
Yeah. It's interesting at the university because I have so many students that come in and they say, Tim, I've got this great idea. I'm excited. They're excited. And I say, let's sit down. And we start looking at it, and it's an idea that's been around a while. Okay? They just didn't know it. And I hate to burst their bubble, but what I have to do then is I say, okay, what else can you do? Obviously you want to do something, you're interested, and so I have to start working with them and trying to mold them. And I feel like the same way when people come into you, if maybe things aren't quite right, you don't want to burst their bubble.
Right.
What I'm hearing from every single one of you is relationship, okay? And I know the passion, I feel the passion. I've had it for years. And what happens is you like to be able to go to their business, you like to see their business, you like to know their business. You want to be able to run their business, okay?
I don't want to run it.
That's what it should be. You want to be able to, though, if you had to. I know you don't want the keys back. I've been
I
there.
call you.
I've been there. But what happens is you want to be a big part of it. And they have to understand that so they can allow you to be a part of it. You know, when you say no, it's not because you're being the bad person. You're saying no because it's not right and it needs to be right. So what we need is we need small business. We need entrepreneurs. We need people to come in and start that relationship with you, give you a good solid chance. Not just one of you. Maybe 2 or 3 of you, you know, find out what they're missing and make it right. And that's how we make it successful. And it seems all of you are willing to do that. And I think that's commendable. Is there anything before we close this show that you'd like to say to small business? Any of you?
Call me. I'll meet you anytime, anywhere.
Absolutely.
Keep up the
Yep.
good work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are the
Yeah.
backbone of the economic
Yeah.
recovery.
Yes.
They
right?
truly are.
The job
Yeah.
creation, I think, particularly in non-metropolitan areas, the job creation has all come from small business. So they're vitally important to all of us.
Great.
And don't underestimate yourself. You know, give someone a call, start researching. If you've got a great idea, it could surface.
Sure, sure. Well, again, thanks to each of you for being a part of the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This concludes another episode of In Your Business. Today we did a special episode. We talked to bankers. We talked to bankers that work with businesses. You know, when we talk to the banks, it feels like there's something different, but there's not. The banks are business, and they're working with business just like a consultant. They're there. They want you to be successful in business. They want you to reach out. They want a partnership. They want a relationship. They're going to be with you from day one to the end. And you know, we didn't talk about succession plan today, but they're going to talk to you about that when you come to the bank. They're going to want to know what it is you're going to start, how you're going to start, where you're going to run it, and where it's going to go long term. You know, there's a lot of things that go into it, and the banks know that. They've learned. That's what's interesting. The banks have learned by example. They've already experienced all the things you're going to experience. They've experienced the good days, the bad days. They know how to explain that to you. So give them a chance. Go in, work with them, talk to them. Say, hey, here's what I want to do. Has anybody ever done it before? They can put you in touch with it. They can put you in touch with an accountant. They can put you in touch with an attorney. They can put you in touch with all the people you need to network to be successful. That's what the banks want. They want you to be successful. So come join us in the entrepreneurship, the small business world, and be a part of the business. Again, thanks for watching In Your Business. Guys, you did a great job.